Hi, my name is Michael. I've been a writer, arranger, and producer for around 15 years. From disco to rock ballads, the tempos all vary, and each cut is played to the drum drop.
Live is what the studio is all about, you know? It's about making the heaviest, the biggest drops, the biggest basses, the builds, you know, making things as loud and as like interesting as you can with sound design. What got me into music was my dad was really into it. Like I had a good musical upbringing, I feel, because my dad wasn't just kind of passively listening. He was like actively listening to stuff and was buying new records and, you know, was kind of like explaining them to me. And, you know, I remember when I was a younger kid, he had like LPs where, you know, you kind of like lose yourself in the records. Early on, like records and stuff like that. I mean, when we were living in Poland and I was like 3 years old, I would like climb up and try to like turn on the record player on the top shelf, and like I'd put on headphones even when I didn't have music and nod my head because that's what I saw my dad doing, you know? Our spare bedroom was basically like a little synthesizer studio of his, and he had little drum machines and sequencers and stuff. And I took piano lessons at the time, so I used his keyboards to practice on, but you know, he kind of slowly showed me how to use different things, and you know, by the time I was like 10 years old, I was like able to sequence stuff on like a little, you know, Boss drum machine and things like that. And early on, I was like kind of like aspiring to have the same passion as my dad had for music, and I feel like a lot of what he couldn't do because he had a family, I was able to do, you know. The emotion and the reason why we all got into music. We didn't get into music because we started going to shows when we were kids. We got into music because it was the songs that got stuck in your head and you were singing it by yourself at a playground or whatever, you know, and things like that, where like, you know, songs that hit you before you even knew what those emotions were. Those human connections that make us feel like we're more a part of like a bigger collective understanding of life. Playing guitar early in my teens and started playing guitar with actually Paul Basic and Derek Smith in bands throughout high school, and it was kind of like a live funk hip hop where we were like playing guitars and bass, like Derek was playing bass and rapping, I was playing guitar and rapping, Paul was playing drums, and it's a little three-piece kind of old schoolish, kind of Beastie Boys-ish kind of raps, you know. So I feel like all of us kind of came from a musical but productive outlook on music, because it let us kind of do what was right for the song rather than what like makes us look best on stage. Because people didn't really know my involvement with Derek and with Pretty Lights in the developmental stages of that. That's the sound that we developed together, and it kind of grew into two different sounds, you know, and it has our own personality, but it's definitely like, I mean, me and him lived together for 5 or 6 years growing up, and on top of that, like, you know, I've been making music for over 10 years. I think people definitely like see where the two sounds came from, like from the first album, from Taking Every Precious Time, and then like where it went from for what Pretty Lights became then, and then what I became. This new album, I really wanted to do something that was special and that kind of continued on from where the first album was, but also went its own direction, kind of had its own don't know, its own entity and its own energy too. I felt like for a sophomore album, you need to have kind of something that like solidifies, you know, like you get people's appetite wet. It's like an appetizer with the first album, and if you don't have a good meal after that, it's like people aren't gonna like what you're serving. There's definitely songs that you can rage to in my album, but like I wanted to have stuff that you can listen to in life, and I wanted to have something that you could just put on and kind of drive to, or just, you know, experience something, have it in the background and not have it be like too invasive. At the same time, if you let it, it'll take you somewhere. It's got its bright sides and its dark sides. I mean, the album's called Even If It Isn't Right. So like I made a lot of choices in my life that, you know, even if they weren't right, they were the choices I was making. You know, it was just like kind of like learning to walk again in a new sense, you know, doing something that I've been doing for 10, 15 years, but then having to like relearn how to do it in a sense where all of a sudden it was my profession. What I really want to do is I want to get back into being into the kind of live band part of things, you know? But I feel like taking the approach of production and bringing it to what I know would work live is the way to do it.
At the beginning, he was actually really too keen on working with a live drummer at all, and I just kept really talking to him about it. I said, hey, let's just give this a shot and see what happens. And thankfully, he was really open to the idea, and he has a chance to kind of fulfill that vision and see what it really is going to be. I think it's going to be pretty special.
I just want to thank everybody that's been a part of this voyage over the last 2 years. It kind of helped fill that gap in my soul, you know? And I'm really appreciative of everybody that's helped me get to where I am.